Hello everyone, it's Teacher Emily here, and thank you for celebrating this lovely holiday with our family at GOTALKTO. Today I would like to share with you some historical love stories that prove to us that love is real and it never dies. I have two American classics as well as one story that will surprise you, and we're going to finish on a story that is near and dear to my heart. So, to start off, I would like to talk about Mildred and Richard Loving. Yes, that was their last name, Loving, and it almost seems like a higher power was definitely in control here, because their story is one of loveliness and sweetness. Richard and Mildred met whenever Richard was 17 and Mildred was 11. Their families introduced them and the two became friends. And later in life, as they got older, Richard pursued the lovely Mildred. They were married in 1958, but there was definitely something special about their marriage. Shortly after the two married, they were thrown in prison. Could you imagine getting thrown in prison and going to, jail or something? If you got married, it definitely does seem a little crazy nowadays. But they were an interracial couple, meaning that Mildred was an African American woman and Richard was a Caucasian white man. And at the time, their marriage wasn't necessarily considered legal. And sometimes people would even use spiritual scriptures and other things to further justify why these two people shouldn't be able to marry each other. So thanks to Richard and Mildred, they fought and they put their story out there and they went through a lot. And because of that, in 1967, the Loving versus Virginia case proved to the whole United States that you couldn't tell someone who they could and couldn't marry. And thanks to that case, it was actually used more recently in 2015 to help give marriage rights to same-sex couples. Woo! Victory for love, and once again, love always wins. You see, the problem with sending Mildred and Richard to prison for being married to each other is that it violated the U.S. 14th Amendment protection, which states that everyone should have equal rights and equal protections by the law. So it didn't really make sense for them to have to be punished for being in love. And thanks to them, interracial couples all over the United States get to rejoice in just being able to be proud of loving the person that they're with. Which is a very, very special story to my heart, because Teacher Emily's fiancé is an Italian-Polish man. So I definitely am very happy to be able to marry him. It's very exciting, and I'm very grateful. So, Mildred, Richard, thank you. Our next story is a Southern classic. If you are familiar with country music, you might have heard of a little man by the name of Johnny Cash. Johnny Cash was a groundbreaking, phenomenal singer, and forever is considered one of the kings in the country music industry. With Johnny Cash, he met the lovely Miss June Carter. The two were already in a relationship when they met, but it goes to show you that even sometimes when we think things might work out, they don't always work out, but then they work out. Johnny Cash and June Carter met at the Grand Ole Opry. Even though the two were already in existing relationships, they quickly hit it off and became good friends, and soon they fell in love. June Carter was quoted saying that it was like she already knew him the moment they met. Johnny Cash says his love for June was unconditional. What's so special about their love story is they endured a lot of struggles. And we oftentimes look at celebrities and famous people, and we usually only get one side of the story. We don't get to see the obstacles or the fights or the messes or even the personal demons that the celebrities have to battle. And when it finally came out that all this stuff was happening to poor Mr. Johnny Cash, because life is hard, June Carter, she stood by his side, and she helped him. Because life, it's not always pretty. It's ups and downs and loop-de-loops, and it's all crazy. And it can be a very, very big struggle. But with Johnny Cash and June Carter, they show that if you love someone, if you want to help someone, support someone, better yourself for someone, you can have a love that is genuine and lasting and endless. Isn't it romantic? Johnny Cash and June Carter were married for 35 years, and they had one son together. Unfortunately, June Carter passed, but Johnny Cash wasn't far behind. In fact, he passed away only 4 months after Miss June. I guess he couldn't wait. Well, thinking about it, I probably couldn't either. I'm coming to get ya! Alright, our next love story is a little interesting and a little different. Have you ever heard of a love story with a dog? Hold on. Hear me out now. The story of Hachiko. Hachiko is a Shiba Inu, or was. He was born on a farm in 1923. He was adopted by Professor Hidesaburo Ueno, who was a professor at the University of Tokyo. Every day, the professor and Hachiko would walk to Shibuya Station. The professor would pet Hachiko goodbye, and he would take the train to work every day. The two were inseparable, and this was a routine that they did so much, even the local shopkeepers were used to seeing Hachiko around. When the professor went to work, Hachiko would sit right there and wait for his master to return. Unfortunately, one day, the professor suffered a brain hemorrhage and passed. He did not return home that day. And the same went for Hachiko. Hachiko stayed at the station and waited for his master to return. For 9 years, Hachiko waited right there at Shibuya Station. The local shopkeepers would help make sure Hachiko was warm in the wintertime, had food, but every day Hachiko waited for the day his master would return until the fateful day when Hachiko passed. And, as a matter of fact, on March 8th, to celebrate the 90th anniversary of Ueno's death, they erected a statue showing Hachiko reuniting with the professor. And it's just the best thing ever. And this love story just goes to show you how good and precious dogs are. We don't deserve them. Ugh, I miss Luna. She's somewhere over there. But dogs really are man's best friend, and they are loyal, and the love that can come from animals can surprise you very, very much. So finally, I want to talk about the personal love story from my family history, the story of my grandparents. And I love this story. I always beg my mother to tell it every single time, all the time, every time. So, a long time ago, in the time before cell phones and text messaging and instant messenger, my grandfather met my grandmother. They were introduced and they fancied each other. He was a handsome man. She was a beautiful woman. What could you expect? I believe there was a carnival going on in the town where my grandmother lived. And so it was an opportunity for them to spend time together. It was an opportunity for them to be together. So my grandmother said, I will be here. If you want to come, you may come. If not, okay. Very plain and simple. And so she goes off to this carnival. So my grandfather, being this love-struck boy, goes to his cousins, he goes to his friends, "Can you give me a ride? Can I borrow the car?" And they're all like, "Man, what? You're crazy. All for some girl? Pfft, you're out of your mind, Manuel." And so, my grandfather decides if he can't get a ride, if he can't take a car, if he can't find a bike, he will walk there. My grandfather walked 75 miles, which is roughly 120 kilometers, to go meet my grandmother. And I don't know, hearing that story always blows my mind. It's such an amazing thing. With all the modern privileges and technology, sometimes I wonder how many of us would walk the 75 miles for the people we love. I like to think about the special person in my life, and I already know which shoes I would wear. So thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed these love stories from history. Don't forget to stay tuned for some more of our activities, and be sure to tell someone you love that you love them today. This has been Teacher Emily, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye!
Go